south of Matsada and the Dead Sea, besides some very fascinating land formations. We encounter a fine example of the many roads the Romans built to unite their empire. This one leads to a little-known desert outpost in the Aravah that nonetheless preserves a lot more Israelite history than Matsada. Though the last fort built here was Roman, it dates back much further. It's known in scripture as Tamar in the wilderness, or Obot. It's one of the places Moses camped with all of Israel on the way into the Promised Land. And you can see how much room there would be for that camp, which some estimate measured 12 miles across. The Red Sea port of Eilat wasn't part of Israel until Solomon's time. When Joshua divided out the land, the eastern and southern borders converged right here at Tamar, which is named for the date palm trees that are such a welcome sight in the desert. Tamar is now a retreat center where many people get to spend time not just seeking Yahweh in the wilderness, but also providing hands-on help to Israel and getting first-hand experience in archaeology. Here there's an outstanding example of a gate complex. And this one is identical to the city gates at Megiddo, suggesting that it too is from the time of King Solomon. And the ancient records do say that this is one of the places he fortified.
And they're trying to come into here. And if you're Israelites, you're defending against people with chariots generally. What if right in here we put archers? Right? You get through this far with your chariot, and we have snipers in 4 chambers, and they pick you off.
Gates were also the ancient equivalent of a courtroom. Judges sat in the gate to make the city's legal rulings, also deciding what types of merchandise would be allowed into the city when the many foreign traders passed by, such as forbidding them to sell any idols here. But some slipped through during times when we were slack about Yahweh's instructions. Right outside the gate, we can see an altar and shrine influenced by the Edomites, who lived in those mountains. It's surrounded by the often mentioned standing stones. Hezekiah deliberately damaged it during his exemplary time of reform. Tamar also boasts one of the oldest trees in the world, 6 meters in circumference, and the largest example yet discovered of a 4-room house, which was the hallmark of Israelite settlements wherever they're found.
Be this room right here didn't have a roof. So right in the middle of your house, you could go outside. You'd have a fire out here, you'd cook out here. It would still have wall, but it would be your courtyard. Your kitchen was open air.
This one is outside the city gate, which was not uncommon. Many people would only stay inside the walled section of the city when there was a foreign army threatening them. Leaving Tamar and the Aravah, we climb up the steep ascent of scorpions. It brings us to the top of the plateau from which we can look down on the whole Aravah, or Rift Valley. We're now in the Negev, the desert which covers 1/3 of Israel's present-day land area. It offers some interesting land formations, like the Ramon crater, formed by erosion, and this echoing canyon. Since caravans passed this way because of the shade, the Nabateans, always the entrepreneurs, took advantage of this and built a permanent settlement here at Avdat. They had naturally air-conditioned houses and were able to capture water runoff to cultivate hundreds of acres of desert. Modern Israel's first prime minister, David Ben Gurion, retired to this modest home at Sde Boker. His very successful experiments with arid climate gardens gave the nation confidence that the Negev does have much more potential than might meet the eye. A large influx of Mexicans have recently found out they were Jewish and are settling in the Negev. With their experience at living in the desert, how might they help it blossom even further? Continuing north, we pass through the territory of the Amalekites, who attacked the stragglers of Israel when they were in a place called Rephidim, slackness. As we approach Be'er Sheva, we can see the landscape beginning to change back to arable land. Be'er Sheva is now a modern city, one of Israel's largest. But this welcome caravan port near the edge of the desert has been here for 4,000 years. Abraham lived here for a while, and Isaac settled here permanently when the Philistines finally agreed to stop filling up his wells. This is thought to be one well that he actually dug. Be'er Sheva, one of the cities deeded to the tribe of Shimon, has undergone a lot more restoration than most tells in Israel. The buildings we can see here are from the time of King David.